Welcome to the Travel Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Aylin Blanco. I interview successful industry professionals and share my personal journey to becoming a travel agent. The show is for aspiring travel agents and travel professionals at every level. My mission is to uncover the universal keys to thrive in this business. Join me as I take a closer look into the life of a travel agent. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Travel Agent Podcast. Today, we have a wonderful guest, and I am going to let him introduce himself.
Awesome, thanks. And my name's Jason Hunt. I'm a co-founder at Merged Media, and we're a digital marketing agency, your one-stop digital shop, or your outsourced CMO to take care of all of your digital marketing needs. I'll give you a bit of background on myself. In 2016, I founded a company called Fresh Crowd, which was a social media agency. Grew that agency to over 300 clients in just a few years, and then needed to become a little more versatile as people were looking for more than just social media. They wanted somebody to take care of everything instead of dealing with multiple people for all of their digital assets. So that's where I merged my company with an SEO company, one of the best SEO companies in Canada. I say that because if you Google SEO companies in Canada, they're near the top. That's how you know a good SEO company. And we formed Merged Media. So now we're kind of that one-stop shop for our clients, and they deal with us so they can focus on what they do best and grow the revenue in their own business and focus on their one thing, which everybody should be doing.
I love your intro because that is what we are talking about today is travel agents and social media, because I feel like there's really a disconnect. And you're right, we can't all do everything. We're good at managing our clients and finding amazing destinations for them. And we don't have time.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Right.
Give me a little bit about like how someone would kind of contact you and what that process looks like, all the things that you do. Because saying social media, I mean, what does that look like? What platforms, all of those things?
Yeah, I know it's a loaded question because I can go many ways with that. And I think it's important to note, I mean, first of all, I've worked quite closely with the Ensemble Group over the last few years, and I do a lot of consulting, but also webinars and presentations for that group on how to best leverage social media. And obviously time is of the essence. And like you said, people don't have time to invest in just posting on social media, doing this or that. It's kind of troublesome and not enjoyable for a lot of people. So I'll tell you that, obviously posting organic content, meaning just posting content on your Instagram or Facebook, is a good place to start. But just posting stock photography isn't really going to help you out. It's really not going to differentiate you from the competition. You need to use that organic content as a way to build that know, like, and trustability with you and your business. We're in an era now where there's so much noise, and you need to cut through that noise. And how do you do that? Well, people like to work with people, so people need to get to know you. And I always say, if you're not somebody that's comfortable as being the face of your business, then you should probably go and find somebody who could be that brand ambassador for you, because people do want to work with people. They don't want to work with your logo. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the key things. So we're talking about two separate things here. One's organic social media, which is posting on your platforms, and then there's paid social media, which we'll get into in a little bit. But on the organic side of it, posting content on Facebook, Instagram Reels is very important as well. Short little videos. Talk about your journey on how you became a travel agent. What's their most memorable trip or memorable destination or memorable hotel room? Whatever it is. Just you got to come up with a list of these kind of content ideas and be consistent. Posting content every Tuesday and Thursday is a great place to start. You don't need to post every day, but at least be consistent. Okay. Much like, this podcast here that we're on, it's like the Travel Agent Podcast, you've been so consistent with it. It's going out every single, is it week? It's a weekly, right?
Yeah, every week.
Every week. And I know too, because I'm a podcaster, how tough it is I've had days where it's been 2 days before and I had nobody lined up that week, but I found somebody, you know what I mean? And you got to do it because you got to be consistent because your audience is expecting that. So even with social media, if you own a travel agency, Tuesday, Thursday post needs to be going out no matter what, and just keep consistent with it. You might only get 10 or 20 views on that video. It doesn't matter. It takes time and you got to be patient with it.
So I love the consistency because that's a big one, because I've been doing this podcast for over 2 years. It wasn't until about 7-8 months ago that people were finding it organically. And so I think that that's a big one. Secondly, people are like, what do I post? I'm raising my hand. I'm that person, because it's like, you think that you're saying the same thing over and over and over again, but I guess people don't care, right?
Well, the beauty thing about travel is it's not insurance. Travel's sexy, it's good. It's good content. You can post a lot of good content. It's never ending content because you can pick any given country. You can talk about regulations that are happening in certain countries, hot spots or places, things to do in the Dominican Republic, whatever it is. There's so many different topics and rabbit holes you can go down. One of the great hacks for creating content is go out there and piggyback on other people's content. I don't mean steal their content, but what I mean is Google top 10 things to do in Ireland. Okay, there is 10 pieces of content for you to create on social media. I'm not saying here are 10 things to do in Ireland. I'm saying grab each and every one of those and churn them out on maybe every single Tuesday, where every Tuesday you talk about Ireland. And there's 10 weeks of content right there where you can just go out there and create it. It's so easy to curate content. You just need to hack it because you don't have a lot of time to do this stuff. So just find that article, bookmark it, and there's your content for 10 weeks for a certain day of the week. And there's so many different types of content you can go after, right?
I hope everyone just heard that.
Yeah, there's your clip.
Because that's brilliant. It took me a while to learn how to batch these episodes. And that's the same thing. You got to figure out what works for you. So you said that you worked for the Ensemble Group. What are some things that, well, not necessarily your secrets, but how do you kind of work with someone who's not necessarily familiar or uses social media at all, and they're really trying to be consistent and break into that particular section to boost their business?
Yeah. So, there's a couple things to do. One, it's a time or money question, right? You either have time or you have money, right? So during the pandemic, my agency worked with a lot of travel businesses prior to the pandemic. Pandemic hit. Now a lot of travel agents have a lot of time. So now they can do this themselves, right? But now when it comes to a time where now you don't have the time because things are getting busier, they're starting to pick up, now might be a good time to hire a professional to take care of that for you. So you just kind of need to decide, how to allocate that time accordingly. But you hit on a great point there, Lynn, and it was about the batching of content, which is very important because like you just said about podcasting, I did the same thing. I learned my lesson when I was struggling to find a guest 2 days before that Tuesday, which is where we launch our podcast. I said to myself, I never want to do this again. I don't want to be chasing people on Instagram DM to try to find a guest. I just don't need to be in that spot. So instead, I batched it. I spend a day each month to go out there and find guests for the upcoming month. And I'm coming up to episode 100. And right now we just released 91 today. So I'm 9 ahead, which is great. And I always want to be in that sort of a system where I'm way ahead, but it happens by batching and not being sporadic all over the place. If you want to do a podcast with me, you can only do it on a Tuesday because those are my podcast days. You know what I mean? It's just setting up your schedule that way. And for me, I live by my Google Calendar. Like my wife even has a link to my Google Calendar to let me know if I need to do something. That's how much I live in my Google Calendar. And I think that's so important because naturally, I'm not a great time manager. So I got to rely on certain tools to help me become a better time manager.
You are giving all the information today. And it's crazy because a lot of the information is out there. But again, like you said, there's just so much noise that it's hard to figure out which method is going to work best for your business. And so do you have an extra tip on figuring out what is the best way to figure out how, which platform or which topic or which anything that's going to work best with someone's schedule so that they can at least try to be consistent?
I love this question because it leads to a certain strategy that we're deploying in our business. It's working really, really well at the moment. And we are quite heavy on Facebook, Instagram advertising, and we do a lot of that for our clients. And one of the things that's working well is creating lead magnets. A lead magnet, white paper, downloadable PDF, whatever you want to call it. But it's something tangible that user online can get in exchange for their contact information. Now, this is separating yourself from the noise because there's a lot of noise out there. People trying to sell you stuff. So how do you differentiate yourself from the noise? Provide people free stuff. Give away some of your free material, your best material. It's okay to give some of that stuff away. And a great example in travel would be maybe top 5 unknown destinations that are going to be thriving in 2021 in Europe. Okay, it's such a niche, but it's a great topic for a downloadable lead magnet that people interested in traveling to Europe would be interested in giving their name and phone number and email in exchange for that information. And the beauty thing about Facebook is you can do this at a relatively low cost, is get these leads in the door. Now, these leads are not going to book tomorrow. Okay, that's okay though, right? You want to basically create this sort of an ecosystem where when they're ready to travel to Europe in 3 or 6 months, you're going to be the person they call. And so what happens here is people interested in the lead magnet provide their information, then they're in a nurture sequence through email. You want to get them off of Facebook, get them over to email. That's the key. Facebook could shut down tomorrow and you lose all your followers, but you're never going to lose your email list. So get them over to email. And what we do in our business, there's a 4-step nurture sequence. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole today, but if you want to reach out to me, I'll be more than happy to provide you the information on how we set up that 4-step nurture sequence. But the point is this, once they're through that nurture sequence, they have a very good idea on who you are and what you're about, and they know, like, and trust you. So by the time that 4th email comes around, they're ready to either book a time in your Calendly or book a time in your calendar to talk, or at least if you were to give them a call, it's a very warm conversation. And the point of that conversation, or the topic of that conversation, is that lead magnet they downloaded in the first place.
Well, I mean, at this point, I don't even know if there's any more questions because you done hit everything today. I appreciate you so much. This was a very heavy, like, gems dropping, full packed episode in like 15 minutes. Like, you gave all the secrets. So thank you so much. I'm going to make sure that everyone listens to this over and over again so they can figure out what's going to work for them and be consistent.
That's exactly why, we do what we're doing right now is exactly, kind of preaching, doing what I'm preaching. You know what I mean? It's like having conversations like this. You're providing value to your audience. And I love the podcast route as well. Such a great way to bring people into your ecosystem because you're not selling them anything. You're just really genuinely providing value. You're learning and your audience is learning at the same time, which is great. And it's the same thing I do on my podcast is I'm sitting there selfishly getting information from people, but it's also serving my audience, which is kind of like a double whammy, right?
I tell people all the time, podcast is the best way to learn and help others all at the same time. So
100.
We're on the same page. Well, I'm absolutely going to have you back on the show. I just want to, say that we really appreciate all of the information that you gave us, and I will be in contact very soon.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining the Travel Agent Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Visit thetravelagentpodcast.com for more information about today's episode and other travel agent resources. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for new episodes. Until next time, continue to build a travel business you love.